lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm doing another 360 book review, this time on the books by the author Caitlin Doughty, specifically her first two. So her first book is The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematorium, and then her second book is From Here to Eternity, Travelling the World to Find the Good Death. She does have a new book coming out very, very soon. It is Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs and Other Questions About Death, which she collected mainly from talking to children. However, I don't know if I'm actually going to read this one, even though I enjoy her work, because I generally don't like the Q&A format in non-fiction books. So because of that, I wanted to do a review of her books now rather than wait for that one to come out. So Caitlin Doughty is known on YouTube as she was the mortician for a while, and she had a channel where she answered questions about death. She has since then, she's trained to be a mortician, and she's done a lot of work talking about natural death in comparison to the very commercialized and kind of sanitized version that you get. So her first book, The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, is actually a cross between an autobiography slash memoir and also a look at the American funeral system in particular, because that's where she's from and where she's primarily worked. It covers her very, very, very early years working in a crematorium, straight out of university or wherever you study to become a mortician. She does mention it, but I read this book a couple of years ago now, so I can't actually remember. The book sort of bounces between chapters from stories from her life, and then also using those specific anecdotes as jumping off points to discuss the American funeral system and just how expensive it is. The practice of embalming, which is to do with like preserving the body with chemicals, is really big over in the US, which is something that I don't think we do over here in the UK. I think cremation is really our kind of jam over here, and honestly embalming sounds freaking terrifying to me, and I don't understand why anybody would want to do it. And she really is not a supporter of this as a concept because it's very expensive, it's very unnecessary, and it's very bad for the environment in a lot of different ways. But it is something that a lot of families do get pushed into, and she's discussing the kind of sanitized version of death that the Western society deals with. She's very funny, has a wonderful dry sense of humour, despite the fact that obviously it's a topic that is going to be quite emotional for a lot of people and is going to be very intense, and is something that, you know, we don't like to talk about in Western world. So I do think it's quite brave of her to put this book out initially, and it was just incredible. It came at a really perfect moment in my life when there had been a death close to me but not one that affected me personally, and it really was something that I found very helpful for kind of understanding the process of what was going on around me, if that makes sense. A wonderful writing style. Continuing with that, we then have her next one, which is From Here to Eternity, which came out a good few years later, and is now her travelling the world to look at how different cultures react and deal with the concept of death, and indeed the kind of funeral practices in general. So if the first book was really talking about this sanitized Western culture, this is going to put it into sharp relief because it's talking about these other cultures that just don't have the same kind of hang-ups that we do about the concept of death. There are cultures in here where the dead body literally, like, you do processes to make sure that it is both sanitary and completely okay, but then the dead body is kept, of the relative, is kept in their house for literal years in some cases. There are some cultures where they would go back to revisit the dead, but like actually see their form rather than just a very cold, callous gravestone that you're dealing with. And it was absolutely fascinating to read about all these different places and the different styles that they have and different ways of like approaching this inevitable thing in our lives. Caitlin Doughty discusses it and deals with these things with like a sensitivity that is very impressive, and in a way that is not casting any judgment on any of the processes that she sees, but instead is just encouraging discussion and then talking about some of the kind of legality and sort of aspects around the burial process in general, and how they're doing whatever it is that they're doing and why it is okay for a variety of reasons. And in doing so gets to dispel a lot of myths about death and dead bodies and corpses and what that kind of means about having that in your household, basically, which I then think was where this third book of hers has come from. To be honest, when it comes to these books, I don't really have a bad thing to say about them. I think if this is something that you are interested in, she has such a wonderful, lovely, natural writing style that is, like I said, humorous at the correct points, but then informative at the correct points and sensitive at the correct points, and just she pitches her tone so perfectly throughout both of these books. and indeed for all of her content, including her channel. And she has a podcast, and just generally consuming a lot of her content over the years, I think that she is wonderful when it comes to that. The only thing I say is, if you are not interested in discussions about, like, frank discussions about death, then one, why are you watching this review and why are you considering these books? But like, definitely don't pick up these books, because you're clearly not going to enjoy it. It's something which I think should become more commonplace as a discussion, and I really do agree with Caitlin that actually the Western world is too focused on tucking it underneath the rug, and it's something that an open and frank and honest discussion, almost like regularly with people in your life, stops it from being this horrible, dark, terrifying thing that we hope to ignore before it comes and gets us, and instead just becomes part of the process of living, of which it is. Like, none of us can ever run away from death in the end, so we might as well get comfortable talking about it and making sure that our wishes are going to be known beforehand. So yes, that's my review. Very much just a gushing, glowing review this time around. Like I said, almost nothing bad to say about these books. I absolutely adore them. I want to reread them again, and even though I don't like the Q&A format, I might even make an exception for Caitlin Doughty, just because she's so good all the time. So that is it from me. Do check out my channel. There are more 360 book reviews out there, so I do review quite a wide range of things. And yeah, have a wonderful reading week, and I will chat to you soon. Bye.